Well met, everyone. I am Rich the Lich, and I'm going to be doing some crafting today. There's a couple of camera angles here, and I am narrating over this, just talking you through my process, what I'm building. You'll get to see everything on screen, but my words will kind of describe my thought process. What I'm doing is I'm just measuring and getting an idea on what I'm going to make with some leftover foam. I have a bunch of different pieces, a couple of loose strips of pink foam, some of the blue foam. Even though the colors are different, the texture and the feel and the build quality is going to be the same. Here is some comic book backing boards, and I've got double corrugated cardboard as well. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this stuff yet, but I do have some idea in that I'm going to make some sort of interior space, a building of some sort. As I'm only working with a few different small sheets of foam, I'm only going to be building something that's going to work for about a 20 by 25 foot space, so about 5 inches or so on gridded combat, if you will. One thing I was doing there a moment ago was just showing how as you start stacking these pieces, it's very important that you stay focused on line of sight. You know how I am with that with Design 101. The aesthetics of something could be wonderful, but it needs to be readable. As I'm in a unique situation of running 10 players through my table, I need to ensure that no matter how pretty I want something to look, I need to absolutely be certain that my players can see things from all angles. I chopped up this piece here. I had a piece of pink foam that my ferrets chew away at. They're kind of like the Umber Hulks of my house, and they're always trying to dig through, so I cut off that loose end there, and now I'm just trying to get some spatial ideas on how much can I get out of this foam. How big do I want this to be? I don't want to go into my storage closet and pull out more large sheets. I want to work with what I have. So as you can see there, I simply just cut it in half, and that has kind of constrained my dimensions. Now I know I'm building something that's going to work at the table for about 20 by 25. I'm cleaning up the edge work right here on screen just to make it look a little bit cleaner. I don't need to be 100% precise with it, because what value is that going to bring at my table for cool gameplay, whether or not the very edge of my terrain piece is perfect or not. So it also adds a little bit of an organic feel, but at the end of the day, I think it's just a cop-out for me being a little bit lazier and being a little imprecise. I'm trying to see where I'm at, stacking things on top of each other. And what I ultimately ended up deciding on is cutting these into strips so that I don't have this pink foam itself as the base. Instead, what I'm working with is I'm cutting these strips, and then you'll see in just a moment here that as I cut them into numerous pieces, I will then lay them out kind of like, just sort of like walls basically, and then I'll add a floor into the place later. But what that allows me to do by doing it in these sort of pieces like this is it gives me some more freedom in my mind to think of some cool playable space. So here you can see the different walls and the different sections that I have sort of laid out there. And what I do is I take those as I'm building here, and I'm just kind of getting an idea of what kind of space. Look at the interior squares of the gray cutting mat, and look at that space there. We've got something like maybe 15 by 20 feet by 25 feet, right? So here I'm just trying to think of what type of miniatures, what things can I put down inside of that space, and also do I want the walls to be a little bit higher? They're okay at this height. I think they read a little better for exterior walls without being so high that they interfere once again with line of sight from players at all angles of the table, no matter where they're sitting. Now I'm just sort of settling my mind by actually gluing things. I'm committing to this step. So I'm gluing things together, and you can see here I'm building the walls. And what I'll do is I do 2 of these. So I have sort of a bottom floor and a second floor. And that is where building the 2 of them, as I put this miniature down, I'm trying to get a feel for how many characters can be inside of this tavern. And it doesn't have to be, even though I'm running 10 players, I don't need all 10 people to fit in, because it's not realistic that every small inn or tavern in a hovel, or excuse me, in a hamlet or a village is 80 by 80. So they can be smaller. Here I'm laying down where I might want some sort of a bar, just some architectural elements to break things up. And then what I did here is I glued down 2 pieces in the corner, which act as steps. I'm now thinking through what do I want to use at the floor, and I quickly realized that the blue foam is too thick. So I use this real thin kind of poster board foam, and this works perfect. Now I'm scoring some lines, and this I'm not trying to cut out. I'm just scoring lines to create the wood grain texture that I'm going to want. And you'll see here that I'll pull out a ballpoint pen, which allows me to kind of create these divots. And that's just texture that the paint is going to take. Here I have a wire brush, and this is just creating more scratches, more texture. Again, I'm trying to create wood paneling. This white square is acting as the floor to my tavern piece that you'll see in a moment when I glue it on. The toothpick is just adding some extra fine details of what would be like nails into the various wooden planks. And again, it's going to pick up the black paint that I will eventually start to use for texture. There you can see I simply glued it. Now I've got two pieces there going on. And what I did is, instead of creating a two-story place that I'm messing with line of sight because my building is getting high, I can just lay it on the table and simply say that one on the left of your screen as you're watching it, on my right, has that little staircase, and that's showing where if you were to walk up the stairs, you would arrive at the little single square on the other piece of terrain that I built, the one that I'm messing with right now, that I just put that block into. And that just helps show where you are. And I'll finish this all up with a few kind of detail shots, just some close-up pictures. You can see this is what it looks like if I wanted to stack it. But all I need to do, since it's modular, is I can pull one piece off of the other and say that the combat and things are happening on the right side, and this is at the bottom floor, and just lay them both out separately without interfering with line of sight. And players will quickly understand which level of the inn are they in. And that was the overall goal of the place. Here you can see I'm just throwing down what it might look like when I start throwing some other terrain pieces in, wood and so on. So you can see the one on the right there, on your right, has that staircase where if you were to climb up, it would show that you are now moving up to the area where the centaur is now. And that's the end of it, folks. Thanks everyone for watching, and take care.